There is a kind of exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. You can rest, you can take a day off, you can even step away for a while. And yet, when you come back, the weight is still there, not in your body, but in your mind. This exhaustion doesn't come from doing too little. It comes from trying too hard to hold everything together, trying to fix what feels unstable, trying to improve what feels incomplete, trying to control what feels uncertain. And slowly, without noticing, life turns into a constant effort. To prevent things from falling apart, you try to fix yourself. Before you even understand what's wrong, you try to fix other people. Because watching them struggle makes you uncomfortable, you try to fix the future by planning, preparing, and worrying ahead of time. And the more you try, the more tense you become. At first, it feels responsible, even noble. You tell yourself you're just being proactive, that you care, that you're trying to do the right thing. But over time, something shifts. You stop feeling grounded. You stop feeling present. You start feeling rushed, even when nothing urgent is happening. The Stoics noticed this pattern long ago. They observed that most human suffering doesn't come from pain itself, but from resistance, from the need to interfere with what life is doing before it finishes its own work, from the belief that if you don't push, everything will fall apart. Think about how often this shows up. In everyday life, you push for clarity and end up creating more confusion. You rush to act and complicate something that only needed time. You try to control outcomes and feel even less in control afterward, not because you're weak, but because your effort is aimed at the wrong place. This is friction, energy spent, fighting reality instead of working with it. And friction, over time, wears people down. Stoicism is often misunderstood as emotional coldness or passive acceptance. But that's not what it teaches. Stoicism is about precision, knowing exactly where effort belongs and where it quietly destroys you. One of the first Stoic lessons is simple, but uncomfortable. Not everything that bothers you is yours to fix. Not every discomfort requires action, and not every situation improves because you stepped in. Most people burn years of their lives trying to improve things that were never within their control. They try to manage how they're perceived. They try to control how others feel. They try to eliminate uncertainty entirely. And when it doesn't work, they blame themselves. They push harder. They tighten their grip, and the exhaustion deepens. Marcus Aurelius was clear about this. You have power over your mind, not outside events. That line isn't poetic. It's practical. It tells you exactly where your responsibility ends and where unnecessary suffering begins. Calm doesn't begin when life finally behaves the way you want. It begins the moment you stop carrying what was never yours to carry in the first place, not by doing less out of fear, but by doing less of the wrong things. In this video, we'll explore why trying too hard often backfires, why restraint quietly builds strength, and how Stoic clarity allows life to unfold without you burning yourself in the process, because peace is not found in control, it's found in alignment. There comes a moment when effort stops being strength and quietly becomes the very thing that drains us. when you live in a constant state of trying. Something subtle begins to happen. Your attention moves outward. You start monitoring everything. Other people's moods, other people's reactions, even situations that haven't unfolded yet. You become alert, not in a calm way, but in a guarded one, as if life is something you must stay ahead of at all costs. At first, this feels like responsibility. You tell yourself you're being careful, that you're preventing problems, that you're just staying prepared. But preparation quietly turns into vigilance, and vigilance, when it never rests, becomes tension. The Stoics saw this clearly. They noticed that people don't lose their balance. Because life is unpredictable, they lose their balance. Because they try to outthink uncertainty, they try to manage outcomes before those outcomes even exist. And in doing so, they abandon the present moment entirely. You can feel this pattern in everyday situations. You rehearse conversations that may never happen. You explain yourself before anyone even asks. You step in to fix a situation that hasn't asked for your involvement. And when things don't improve, you feel frustrated, sometimes even resentful, not because you did too little, but because you did too much in the wrong place. This is where Stoic clarity becomes essential. Stoicism does not teach detachment from life. It teaches discernment, the ability to see clearly what belongs to you and what does not. Epictetus framed it in the simplest possible way. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. That's not philosophy for debate. That's philosophy for survival. Because the moment you blur that line, your energy leaks everywhere. Most people don't burn out because they lack strength. They burn out because they keep applying strength where it produces no return, to people who are not ready, to situations that don't belong to them, and to outcomes that resist control. Stoicism doesn't say, "Don't care." It says something far more precise. Care, but only where your influence is real. Because forcing improvement where no invitation exists don't create growth. It creates resistance. This is why restraint is not weakness. It is intelligence, knowing when to speak, and when silence carries more weight, knowing when to act, and when stepping back allows things to resolve themselves. When you stop rushing to fix everything, you don't become passive. You become precise. Your actions slow down, but they land deeper. Your words become fewer, but they carry clarity, and people around you begin to sense stability, not pressure. This is what it means to stand firm without forcing life. You remain engaged, but not entangled, present, but not consumed in the next part. We look at another habit that keeps people quietly restless. Why chasing happiness often creates more anxiety than peace, and how Stoic contentment begins. The moment you stop demanding that life feel good all the time. What makes this so hard to notice is that the more we struggle, the more normal the struggle begins to feel. After spending so much energy trying to control what happens around you, it feels natural to believe that at least one thing should be within reach. Happiness, if you can't control outcomes. You tell yourself, at least you should feel good. So you begin to chase it. At first, the chase feels reasonable. You work harder, hoping success will bring peace. You improve yourself, believing confidence will finally arrive. You organize your life. Thinking clarity will silence the noise. And for a brief moment, it almost works, but the feeling doesn't stay. The calm fades, the satisfaction slips away, and without noticing, you reach again. Not because you're ungrateful, but because happiness, when treated as a destination, never holds still. The Stoics saw this clearly. The moment happiness becomes a goal, the present moment becomes insufficient. You are no longer living here. You are living later. Always one condition short. Always one step away. And that distance creates restlessness. You may not notice it right away. It shows up quietly, a constant sense of pressure, an inability to fully relax, a feeling that something important is still missing. Even when, objectively, things are going fine. Seneca captured this trap with brutal honesty. He who is not content with what he has would not be content with what he would like to have. This isn't pessimism. It's observation, because desire doesn't disappear when it's satisfied. It simply changes shape. Stoicism does not reject happiness. It rejects dependence. The idea that your inner states hold be dictated outcomes you do not control. Because the moment your peace deepens on success, approval, or comfort, you hand your well-being to forces outside yourself, and that makes peace fragile. Instead, Stoicism points to something quieter, not excitement, not constant pleasure, but contentment, a steady inner ground that does not collapse when circumstances change. This does not make life dull. It makes life less desperate. You stop demanding that every moment feel good. You stop treating discomfort as a personal failure, and paradoxically, that is when lightness returns. The Stoics understood this deeply. Calm is not the reward for success. It is the condition that allows you to move through life without tearing yourself apart. When you stop chasing happiness, you do not become numb, you become present. Less impatient with yourself, less harsh about where you are, less frantic about where you are going, and in that presence, joy stops being hunted and begins to appear quietly, without force. From here, the next struggle becomes clear. If happiness is not something to chase, and control is not something to force, then why do so many people end up trying to become someone they are not? That is what we will look at next. At some point, the question quietly changes. Not how much more we can give, but how long we can keep going this way. When happiness keeps slipping away and control proves unreliable, many people turn inward, but not in a healthy way. They begin to question who they are, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly through comparison. You start noticing how others speak, how they carry themselves, how they seem more confident, more respected, more at ease, and without fully realizing it, you begin to adjust. You soften parts of your personality. You hide opinions that once felt natural, and slowly, you begin performing instead of living. At first, this feels like growth. You tell yourself you're adapting, that this is maturity, that everyone does this. But over time, something inside you starts to drift. You stop acting from conviction and start acting from expectation. And the distance between who you are and who you present keeps widening. The Stoics warned about this quietly. They understood that much suffering does not come from failure, but from self-alienation. from abandoning your own nature in exchange for approval, safety, or a sense of belonging. You can feel it when it happens. You replay conversations afterward and think, "That wasn't really me." You agree when you wanted to pause. You stay silent when you wanted to speak. You say yes, while something in you was already saying no. And afterward, there's a dull weight, not regret, but disconnection. This is the cost of trying to become someone else. You gain acceptance, but lose alignment. You gain smoothness, but lose solidity, and eventually, you feel strangely empty, even when everything looks fine on the outside. Stoicism offers a clear correction here. It does not ask you to reject the world. It asks you to abandon yourself for it. There is a Stoic understanding that rarely gets stated plainly. You are not meant to be everything. You are meant to be consistent. Consistent with your values, consistent with your limits, consistent with what you can and cannot carry. Most people think freedom comes from becoming more flexible, but the Stoics saw something deeper. Freedom comes from knowing where you do not bend, where compromise turns into erosion, where adaptation becomes self-erasure. This does not mean rigidity. It means honesty, the courage to say, "This is who I am, and this is where I stand." Even if it costs comfort, even if it costs approval, even if it makes some people uncomfortable. Because when you stop trying to become someone else, something unexpected happens. Your energy returns. You stop monitoring reactions. You stop adjusting masks. You stop carrying quiet tension. You become simpler, and simplicity is stabilizing. This is not isolation. It is integrity, and integrity creates a quiet gravity. People may not always agree with you, but they feel something solid, something unforced, something real. From here, everything we've explored begins to converge. If you stop forcing outcomes, stop chasing happiness, and stop abandoning yourself, how do you move through life without becoming passive? That shift is what comes next. Letting go doesn't arrive as a dramatic decision. It shows up quietly, the moment we stop forcing ourselves to hold everything together. Once you stop forcing outcomes, stop chasing happiness, and stop reshaping yourself to fit every expectation, a natural question appears: if I'm not pushing, if I'm not performing, if I'm not chasing, how do I act at all? This is where Stoicism is often misunderstood. Many assume restraint means passivity, that letting go means giving up, that standing firm means doing nothing. But Stoicism doesn't remove action. It refines it. Before, action came from pressure. You acted because silence felt uncomfortable. You intervened because uncertainty made you restless. You spoke because you feared being misunderstood. Now, action comes from clarity. You move inly when movement is honest. You speak inly when words add weight. And you step back without guilt when something is not yours to carry. Epictetus captured this discipline with precision. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Notice the order: identity first, action second, not reaction, not pressure, not approval. This is how Stoicism protects your center. You stop measuring your worth by how much you do for others. You stop proving your value through constant effort. You stop confusing busyness with purpose, and instead, you become deliberate. deliberate with your time, deliberate with your energy, deliberate with your commitments. You choose fewer things, but you choose them cleanly, and that cleanliness creates strength. There is a calm confidence that emerges here, not because life becomes predictable, but because you are no longer at war with it. You accept that some things will unfold without your permission. Some people will misunderstand you. Some outcomes will disappoint you. Some efforts will go unnoticed. And still, you remain intact. This is what it means to care without entanglement. You show up fully where your influence is real, and you let go completely where it isn't. No resentment, no self-betrayal, no quiet exhaustion. When you live this way, people may not always understand you, but they feel something unmistakable. Stability, consistency, presence. Not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that doesn't need it. This is Stoic strength, not loud, not rigid, not reactive, but grounded. From here, everything comes together. How to live responsibly without forcing life. How to move forward without losing yourself. And how calm, once established, becomes something no situation can easily take away. And maybe the real strength we've been searching for was never about doing more, but about knowing when enough is enough. At the end of all this, one quiet truth remains. Life does not need to be forced to be lived well. It doesn't need to be chased. It doesn't need to be corrected. And it certainly doesn't need to be controlled at every turn. What it asks for instead is clarity. Clarity about where your responsibility begins and where it ends. Clarity about what deserves your effort and what quietly drains you. Clarity about who you are when no one is watching, approving, or expecting anything from you. The Stoics never promised an easy life. They promised a clear one. A life where you no longer waste energy fighting reality. A life where action is deliberate. Restraint is strength, and calm is something you carry within you, not something you wait for the world to give you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you seek tranquility, do less, not because effort is wrong, but because unnecessary effort is where most suffering hides." When you stop forcing life, you don't fall behind, you return to yourself. Your actions become steadier, your words become fewer, but heavier. Your presence becomes quieter and more grounded. You no longer need to explain yourself. You no longer need to rush. You no longer need to be everything to everyone. This is not withdrawal from life. It's alignment. And alignment creates a strength that doesn't depend on circumstances. If this reflection spoke to you, if it put words to something you've been feeling but couldn't name, then you're exactly who this channel is for. Stoic Havenway exists for those who value inner clarity over external noise, for those who choose discipline without cruelty toward themselves, and for those who understand that true strength rarely needs to announce itself. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel. It helps this space grow, and it allows these ideas to reach others who may need them right now. Thank you, sincerely, for giving your time, your attention, and your presence. Until next time, stand firm, and let the rest unfold. At the end of all this, one quiet truth remains. Life does not need to be forced to be lived well. It doesn't need to be chased. It doesn't need to be corrected. And it doesn't need to be controlled at every turn. What it asks for instead is clarity. Clarity about where your responsibility begins and where it ends. Clarity about what deserves your effort and what quietly drains you. Clarity about who you are when no one is watching, approving, or expecting anything from you. The Stoics never promised an easy life. They promised a clear one. A life where you stop fighting reality, where action is deliberate, where restraint is strength, and where calm is something you carry, not something you wait for the world to deliver. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you seek tranquility, do less, not because effort is wrong, but because unnecessary effort is where most suffering hides. When you stop forcing life, you don't fall behind, you return to yourself. Your actions become steadier, your words become fewer, but heavier. Your presence becomes quieter and more grounded. You no longer need to explain yourself. You no longer need to rush. You no longer need to be everything to everyone. This is not withdrawal from life. It's alignment. And alignment creates a strength that does not depend on circumstances." If this reflection resonated with you, if it put words to something you've been feeling but couldn't name, then you're exactly who this channel is for. Stoic Havenway exists for those who value inner clarity over external noise, for those who choose discipline without cruelty toward themselves, and for those who understand that true strength rarely needs to announce itself. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel. It helps this space grow, and it allows these ideas to reach others who may need them right now. Thank you, sincerely, for your time, your attention, and your presence. Until next time, stand firm and let the rest unfold.